Good evening and welcome to this edition of Housing Fair, Safe and Affordable. It's brought to you by the CVOEO Coordinated Statewide Housing Programs. My name is Pam Favreau and I work for Vermont Tenants. That is one of those CVOEO Coordinated Statewide Housing Programs. Tonight we're going to focus on the safe in fair, safe and affordable. And to that light, joining me tonight is my guest, Ita Meno. She is from Burlington City's Code Enforcement Offices. And we are going to do a couple of things, give you some basic education on your rights to fair, safe, and mostly safe, affordable housing, and how to go about fixing and getting problems fixed when you need repairs and you feel like perhaps your housing isn't as safe as it could be. To put it in a little context, very quickly, there are a set of state laws that protect a tenant's rights, outlines their responsibility, and also talks about landlords' rights and responsibilities. And the aspect in terms of safe housing is a law called the Warranty of Habitability. And that is basically exactly what it says, your guarantee of safe, habitable housing. And the specifics of what that means are outlined in a separate set of state laws called rental housing health. And we're hoping also to kind of take a little bit of mystery out of calling into a code enforcement office and what to inspect, what to expect. So in that light, Ita, first of all, thanks for coming to join me tonight.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Tell us for starters just a little bit about Burlington's code enforcement system and how does that work for the average person that has no clue in terms of how does the city know what kind of condition things are in?
Well, the Burlington Code Enforcement runs on two basic systems. One, we have a routine registration process, which means that the city of Burlington requires all rental properties in the city of Burlington to be registered. There's almost 10,000 rental units. It's a lot of rental units in Burlington, and we have most of them registered. I like to think every once in a while somebody sneaks up, but for the most part, most properties are registered, and our attempt is to inspect those every 3 years.
Great.
And we're on par with getting that, with hitting that goal now. So that's the first part. The second part is complaint inspection. So a tenant has a hole in their ceiling, and they've either reported it to the landlord or they haven't reported it to the landlord, but they choose to call in code enforcement, and code enforcement would come and respond and verify, yes, indeed, there is a hole in your ceiling. And then we would write up a report, and we would send the report to the landlord saying, hey, there's a hole in this tenant's ceiling, we need you to fix it. You have 30 days. And so that's the second part of it. So routine inspection, every 3 to 5 years, we'll get into every rental property in the city. Complaint inspection, if there's a problem that the tenant finds or an issue that the tenant finds with the unit, then they'll give us a call and we'll come and respond. Not everything that a tenant thinks is a problem with the unit is a problem with Burlington's minimum housing code.
Right.
So that's something to think about. Another thing that a tenant should think about is if they call us for a hole in the ceiling and in the kitchen ceiling, and we notice that there are 3 disconnected smoke alarms, well, I'm going to tell the tenant, you need to put those smoke alarms up right now, right before I leave. Like, I need you to do that.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I know from both working with you and working with tenants for a long time is that that's actually an ordinance violation that could warrant a fine. Absolutely. If a tenant does that. And my understanding is it's a fairly steep fine. It can be as much as $500.
That's very true.
So, I talk to tenants who say, gee, my smoke alarm keeps going off and keeps going off. And I call the landlord about it and they're not fixing it and whatever. First of all, I usually say, maybe carbon monoxide, maybe you should call the fire department. But then really caution them about not disconnecting it themselves and what to do. If the fire department comes and they disconnect it, that's a whole other matter, and they're off the hook. But I think it's really a common thing for people to just say, oh, the smoke detector, pop it out, and just think, okay, and don't think about it. But it's an interesting thing to know that it could be a real problem for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I will write a tenant a ticket for repeat offenses. Absolutely.
It's a dangerous thing. It's totally a dangerous thing. Not to be doing. One of the most common calls or the things that I get is you're absolutely right that folks may think it's something that would be some type of code violation, and they're not really sure where. I've got some great resources because of what I do. I know the codes pretty well. I know where to find them, things like that. Is there a place where somebody's living in Burlington, renting in Burlington, if they are not sure, is there a place where they can find out before making a call to you guys? Or
Sure, absolutely. You can go to the City of Burlington's website, that's burlingtonvt.gov, and look for the city's municipal code, Chapter 18. So a lot of lingo here. I'm sorry.
There is a lot of lingo in it.
But Chapter 18 of the Burlington Municipal Code is what you should remember. And you go there, and it goes over what the minimum housing code looks like. It's all legalese. So some people, it took me 30,000 times of reading it before I actually understood what it said. But you could also call our office and ask the people who answer the telephone some questions. If they can't answer the question, then they'll refer you to an inspector, and we answer questions. You are welcome. We are inaccessible. We are accessible. We want you to call us. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that that houses are safe and sound and livable. Absolutely.
One of the things that my program, Vermont Tenants, does is we run a hotline. And I'm generally speaking the person that's at the end of that hotline when somebody calls. And I spend a lot of time referring people over to either health officers or different city code enforcement offices. So first of all, I really want to say I can't even remember the last time I got a call back from a tenant saying that didn't work, or code enforcement didn't take care of this for me. So you guys should really be commended.
Great.
That considering you're looking at 10,000 units, and how many inspectors?
There are 5 of us. Well, 4 of us technically.
So
we're going to be hiring though this spring for anybody who's
covering that many places that you really do seem to be able to follow up, go back.
It's not just the inspectors though. It's the whole team. We have an amazing team. Absolutely.
That's great. When you were saying, say I got a hole in my ceiling and I call you, and I want to just pop in there that even though it really is acceptable to just call code enforcement, from my perspective, I really recommend you call the landlord first.
Totally
Because if you've never even said, hey, there's a hole in this ceiling, and boom, they're getting a call from code enforcement saying, we have a problem. It may not be the best for your relationship with your landlord, but it's an option.
We actually say that too when we go into an apartment is, have you talked to your landlord?
Right.
Call your landlord, like you really should, or send them a letter.
Right. We've got a caller on.
Oh,
Let's go see what we're doing. Hi, caller. You're on. What can I do for you? And your name.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I was at last night's Department of Public Works Commission meeting, and Bill Ward was there dealing with a few code enforcement issues. But the meeting went long, and he couldn't stay until the end. So, if I could, I'd ask you a couple of general questions. Firstly, how long does a property have to be vacant before the city declares it a vacant property?
I'm going to field that to Ita, but I'm going to tell you, like in anything else, there's probably some variation in terms of time frames. So, and for anybody out there that's watching that's not aware, Bill Ward is the director of the code enforcement offices here in Burlington.
I mostly do minimum housing inspections, and anything that I say may be wrong. So I'm gonna ask that you give our office a call on that one.
Oh.
If you're comfortable with that, if you have time.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a general question.
Yeah, the number 285 sticks out in my mind, but yeah, I'm really sorry that I don't have that number solid.
Okay, well, thanks anyway.
Yeah, what's your next question?
Well, it was going to be more things about vacant properties, and I was thinking like.
I may be able to answer another vacant building question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you wanted to ask it, you're welcome to.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, and definitely give code enforcement a call. I think you'll probably not have too many problems getting an answer. Thanks
I
again.
can probably find these things city charter or municipal codes anyways if I just look them up.
Definitely. The codes are pretty thorough.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for calling in. That's probably a good point. That's something that, a good time to segue to something I wanted to talk about. I think that, a lot of folks may be aware of code enforcement in terms of their role in rental inspections and things like that. But, as we just kind of got a clue on there, there's other ordinances that you guys are dealing with and can enforce, things like vacant building ordinances and stuff like that. But I happen to know that there are some ordinances that you don't necessarily think about in terms of being a tenant, if I'm a renter here in Burlington, and kind of what my responsibilities are. And I routinely talk to folks who find themselves getting in a little trouble because of it. So maybe you can talk to me a little bit about some of the outside stuff that can be problematic. And so really what I'm talking about are things like city green belts, recycling, trash ordinances, vehicles, those kinds of things.
Sure. Okay. Recycling. Please don't leave your recycling out for multiple days. Put it out the night before. Bring it in when you get home the next day after your recycling has been removed. Please don't leave it out. If you're particularly lately with all of these high winds, we've been seeing papers and other recyclables in the streets, and it's really it's making the city look a little bit less beautiful. So I think that we can all do our part. Don't put it out more than the day before. Green belts. Please don't put indoor furniture outside.
Right.
It is, first of all, it's not safe. And not just the green belt, but don't put it on your porches or anything like that. Indoor furniture is called indoor furniture for a reason. It's upholstered for a reason. It should stay inside, protected from the weather. So keep indoor furniture inside. Outdoor furniture, there's furniture that's made specifically for the exterior. Put that on your porch. That's all fine and dandy. The second part of that you mentioned, Pam, was getting rid of your old furniture or old television sets and putting it in the green belt. The Chittenden Solid Waste District allows for people to get rid of their old televisions. You don't have to pay for it. You have to get it to the depot on Pine Street, which I believe in you, Burlington residents, that you can do this. There's a couple of buses. If you're worried about that, they can get you there. And don't leave your furniture out on the green belt. It's unbecoming and
and for anybody
unsafe.
Absolutely.
And dirty. It's actually really dirty.
And certainly I remember a few years ago an incident where somebody had a couch out on a porch and somebody walking by threw a cigarette by and it got in and smoldered for hours, and there was a really horrific fire. And some tenants were very lucky to get out, frankly. So there's good reasons behind some of the ordinances. And one of the reasons that they interest me in terms of the tenant education piece and making people know their responsibilities is, my understanding is, if you guys are going by and you see a couch out or on a green belt or on the porch or whatever, you're gonna note the address of that place, but you're not gonna really know who the tenants are. You're gonna know who the owner is.
Yep, we're gonna take a picture.
So you're gonna send something to the owner, to the landlord, that says, "Hey, you got this problem." And from my perspective, it's really important that tenants know that creating a code violation of any type in your unit is an evictable offense. So not only say you see a couch out and it's on my porch and whatever, and you send the notice to the owner, and he contacts me and says, well, that's got to get off there, and I don't do it, and it sits there for a while. You guys can ticket, and that landlord can pass that ticket along to me, and I can guarantee that. So all of a sudden, this is now costing me money. But in addition to money, anytime you create a code violation, you can potentially be looking at an eviction process for that. So it's really just a good piece to keep in mind that, the rights that you have as a tenant definitely come with some responsibilities. So.
Yeah, we have a couple of instances where some couches that people or mattresses that people have taken off the green belt that had the free sign on it that are so appealing because they look nice, but actually have little critters that we don't want to invite into our homes generally. So, so I just caution you to not get rid of furniture, and if you have bed bugs, definitely don't get rid of your furniture in the green belt. Please dispose of it properly. It's really uncool to pass that along to other people. And secondly, don't take free furniture off the greenbelt. If you feel like you have an opportunity that you can't pass up, inspect it carefully. If it's a mattress, look through the seams. If it's a sofa or a chair, look at the seams. Look for eggs. Just look and inspect your finds very, very carefully. But I discourage you from doing it at all.
Thanks.
There are a couple of landlords that are asking tenants not to bring in furniture that they find on the greenbelts now. So
Yeah,
beware
and
of that.
again, if they do that in the same way that, say, a couch on the greenbelt, bringing in an infestation of any kind is creating a code violation. So again, one of the things we unfortunately hear from a lot of tenants is they picked up something on the greenbelt or however they did it, and they brought bed bugs into the building, and the next thing they know, the landlord's hitting them with the bill for the extermination. And
It's like $1,000.
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And I'm here to tell you, yeah, they can do that. They can pass that bill along to you.
For the free wingback chair
Yeah.
that you found on the greenbelt. I don't know if it's
Not worth it. Not worth it. You mentioned something a little bit about when we were talking just about code enforcement in general and about kind of like routine inspections. Tell me a little bit about kind of what's the difference between, gee, it's been 3 years and it's time for my unit to be inspected, or hey, I'm calling you because I have a hole in the ceiling and I want that kind of inspection. I mean, do the inspectors do the same type of inspection in both instances, or is there some variation?
It depends on the amount of time that we have. For routine inspections, we will look at every unit in the building. So if it's a 4-unit building, we look at all 4 units in these routine minimum housing inspections.
And I've seen you guys have kind of like a checklist of
Yeah,
all your things you're looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My checklist isn't here. I'm just kidding.
No, I think it is.
For a complaint inspection, we will go to the unit in this 4-unit building. We will go to the unit C. We will go to that unit specifically, and we'll look around. The first thing that we'll go to is we'll look at the complaint specifically. So if it's a complaint for malfunctioning smoke alarms, or a complaint for, let's go back to the ceiling, for a complaint for a hole in the kitchen ceiling, then we'll go look at the hole in the kitchen ceiling. Because we are who we are, we will immediately look at the immediate life safety concerns that we always look at when we walk into a unit. Are your smoke alarms that we see readily accessible, and are they connected? And so we'll check on that. Depending on the amount of time we have, we will look through the whole unit, particularly if the tenant's okay with it. I usually ask a tenant if it's okay if I look around the whole unit, and I try to get a whole unit done.
Right. But again, we're still back to 10,000 units and 4 or 5 inspectors.
Right.
So,
Right.
Because
Well, last year we got almost 3,200, over
amazing.
3,200 units inspected.
that's amazing. You are on track.
Yeah, we are right on
Yeah.
track.
Yeah. And I also want to tell you that that's a huge improvement. You guys have always been great, but I know you're under a new director the last couple of years, and you guys, I really see the numbers in terms of inspections coming up.
Thanks. Yeah,
which
the
is
whole
great.
it's the whole team. I don't know that I've ever had a better working experience than I've had since I've been at code enforcement.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
nice.
right?
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I always encourage tenants, because I do sometimes, I'll get a call, hey, I've got a hole in my ceiling, and the landlord won't fix it, and I refer to you guys. And then once in a while I'll get a call back, and it's really not a complaint. It's they didn't even, they didn't even mention or say anything or tell the landlord to fix the broken window. Is like, a fair example. And I always ask them, okay, did you point that window out to the inspector? Well, no. So, I mean, I think it really is important if you're a tenant and you're calling to understand the difference that when you're up for a routine inspection, it's been 3 years, you guys are going to hit pretty much everything. But, I know you guys go out of your way to try to look at everything. But if there's something that a tenant's concerned about, even if it's not what they called for and you're there, it's okay to point it out.
Absolutely.
To say, point it out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and that brings me kind of a next piece. Now, I happen to know, so if you're going to be looking at like a routine scheduled inspection, the city's going to contact the property owner and say, hey, it's inspection time. And then the property owner's responsibility is to give the tenants the notice saying, hey, this is the date, and here comes it's inspection time. But when there's a complaint inspection, it's a different matter. More often, it's just you and the tenant.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just us and the tenant for complaint inspections.
Give a call.
For a routine inspection, we ask landlords to give them 48 hours notice.
Yep. Great.
Yeah.
And they'd have to. Great.
Yeah,
Another call. Let's see what's up. Hi, thanks for calling in. What's your name and what can we do for you?
Hi, it's Greg again.
Hi, Greg again.
Yeah, I was just listening to you a little earlier talking about recycling being left out in the green belt too long. A lot of people put stuff out on the green belt with free signs on it. Is there any time limit for how long that kind of thing can stay out there?
Zero.
Zero.
It
Zero.
shouldn't be.
They're not supposed to do that at all.
No,
Yeah.
no. If you see who put it out, I like to tell them, excuse me, you can't do that. But I have a shiny badge that gives me this, like,
Right.
a little bit of an edge, I think. But I encourage neighbors to tell your neighbors, you can't do that, please don't do that. Or if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel safe, give us a call. If you have an apartment complex in your neighborhood or apartment units in your neighborhood, find out who the landlord is and get their number or email address and call them or email them. But you're always welcome to call us, and we will respond to those complaints, Greg.
Is that the type of thing that can be reported anonymously, or is it going to get back to the people who was the complaint?
Yeah, the City of Burlington doesn't have anonymous complaints for these sorts of things, but you're welcome to, yeah.
But I think maybe one of Greg's questions is the difference between saying, okay, my name is Greg and I live at such and such an address and I want to report there's a couch in the green belt in front of such and such property. But that doesn't necessarily mean when an inspector contacts the landlord, they're going to say to that landlord, this person at this address is the one who said this. Or if they go to the tenant, not necessarily going to,
Right.
say that.
I mean, if you request a public records request, it'll
come up.
It'll come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks again.
Have a good evening.
You too.
That's a really good question. Maybe he'll have the third one before we're up here. I guess just before we completely run out of time here, one of the last questions I kind of wanted to ask you about is one of the things that I know confuses a lot of tenants, and I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes it confuses me, is kind of the difference between rental code, housing code things, and fire safety stuff. And where does code enforcement come in within that? And so in different areas of the state, say you don't have a municipal system, if I've got that hole in my ceiling, I'm going to be calling a town health officer. But if I don't have working smoke detectors, I'm going to be calling Department of Public Safety's Fire Safety Division. So I have to go with two complete different places. What about in a municipal system like Burlington's? So if I have, maybe a wiring problem, or my outlets are sparking, or things like that, and I put a call to you guys, do you, where does fire safety and the inspectors and those kinds of things come in?
Is it a rental?
Oh, obviously, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I just assume everything's a rental in what I do,
yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine. If it's a rental, we'll go check it out, see if it's sparking, and if it is, then we'll require that the landlord get an electrician to check it out, and to verify that they actually used an electrician by providing us with that electrician's licensure information. Sometimes getting an electrician requires that a permit be pulled, and then the city electrician gets involved. But if in a rental, we look at we look at the minimum of just about everything in the unit. For beyond the minimum, then you could contact professional services, like professional inspection services, like the city electrician and all that. But for the most part, we are the ones in Burlington who you would call for sparking. I mean, if you're really concerned about sparking stuff, then you should call the fire department. Also, like if something's sparking and you see it, that's a potential hazard that should be addressed right away.
Absolutely addressed
right away.
Absolutely
I would
addressed.
be worried.
And I really reinforce that. I spoke to somebody last week whose carbon monoxide detector just kept going off.
Call the
and
fire
kept going
department.
off and kept going off, and she couldn't figure out what to do about it. And she got to the point where she had a nosebleed, and she still wasn't sure. And I'm on the phone with her saying, "You need to leave the building.
Seriously.
You need to call the fire department. You need to leave the building. You have a real problem happening." So we have just about 4 or 5 minutes left. And we have a last call, so let's see if this can kind of take us through something we haven't talked about yet. Hi there, caller. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Jeannie, and I'd like to know if it's a law that if you rent a rental property, they have to have a light outside.
That's a great question. That's a really great question. So, yes, entrances have to have an exterior light. So
Even if you have an inside hallway?
Inside hallways, also, yes, yes.
Huh, I don't have one.
Then, are you here in Burlington?
Yes, I am.
Then one of the things that you're going to see, if you haven't seen it yet, actually it's on the screen right now, is the number for Burlington City Code Enforcement. Put in a call to those guys, and they can help you get that straightened out. Yes. Any interior hallways, particularly stairwells, and entrance doors, right outside the doors, there need to be lights. All right?
You don't have any outside.
Yeah. Jot down the number on your screen and give them a call.
Ida, you've been to my house before.
Have I?
I live next door to Sean and Jesse.
Don't forget, she probably inspected 1,500 places last year. So, if you think about the numbers, you probably did.
I know exactly which house you're talking about.
You're amazing.
Yeah,
You're amazing.
no, I know
You're
exactly
amazing.
which house, especially, you give it away. And
Yeah.
and sure, I'd be happy to go check it out again. Yeah.
Take a look at the guys sometime.
Okay. Great. Give them a call in the morning and they'll get you lined up.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point that she raises, because I may have referred that person to you as well. And that's kind of, again, what we're talking about, where I say don't be afraid to point something out, because if you're calling for a complaint inspection about something in your unit, it's not unheard of that the inspector might not notice something out in a common area, like a hallway or something. So it really is always okay to just, point this out. So in the last 2 minutes, let's get down to what happens when things go really bad. And so really, what does the city have in terms of the authority, or under what type of circumstances, to say this unit is no longer inhabitable? So, I mean, people use all the time, toss around the word condemn. Is that something that a code enforcement office can do?
We have these fancy red cards that we can put on people's doors if we find it uninhabitable for health purposes. But we would never use the word condemned. We don't have the authority to condemn a building. We do have the authority, though, to say that a unit itself is uninhabitable for human beings. The things that make a unit uninhabitable is there are no pathways through. The word hoarding, I think, is a popular word right now. So there are no pathways. There are many instances of disconnected smoke alarms. It's generally unsafe, or there's feces, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know an instance in somebody I worked with where there's like just really bad mold infestation. That will do it too. So, and then my understanding of it is if it's uninhabitable due to the landlord not keeping it up, then the city has some great enforcement regulations that may be an option in terms of some relocation options and the responsibility of the landlord. So the real bottom line is, when in doubt, if you're not sure, give either of our programs a call, and
Absolutely.
we're more than happy to answer your questions for you. And thanks for joining me, Ita. I really appreciate
I'm happy
it.
to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks.